Punisher Season 2 follows two general plots. First, we have the Billy Rousseau plot, which took off from Season 1, and the B plot is the Rachel plotline, which is wholly unique to this season. While both are really solid, I feel like there really wasn't any common link between the two, and because of the fact that the Rachel storyline was completely independent of Season 1, it didn't really feel like a continuation of the story we were following. The only thing connecting the two storylines is Frank himself, who literally just decided to help Rachel because he felt like it, which is pretty weak in terms of reasoning. That being said, it really works for me. Rachel and Frank's chemistry is just fantastic, and they have such a compelling dynamic here that it just works. The visuals of this season are appropriately gory and gruesome as usual, which is why it's so confusing to me that they went with such a restrained jigsaw design for Rousseau. Considering his deformity drives so much of his motivation for this season, I wonder why he only has like 3 scars on his face. If his scars were more deformed and hideous, I really think it would add to the season. The humor of this season is also more pronounced than the former, and it really works for me. Most of it comes from Rachel, who is deflecting from her trauma, so not only is it effective as a characterization trait, but also as humor itself. The main theme of the season is trauma. The actions of pretty much all of the characters in the season were forged by some sort of trauma of their past. It's most evident when exploring the Billy Rousseau storyline, where we see that everyone's life course was thoroughly changed by the trauma of the events of Season 1, while Billy Rousseau gets to live on without facing any of the trauma from those events because he lost his memory. In terms of people's reactions to this trauma, Madani chose a path of avoidance, doing her mandated therapy to get it over with, and trying to forcefully move on. And Frank faced this trauma by making Rousseau suffer. Or so he thought. In actuality, Frank realized that it was his weakness that stopped him from killing Rousseau, and that he'd been avoiding it. Rachel's actions were fully driven by her trauma of the massacre of all her friends, and she's grown an inescapable distrust of others, constantly lying and fleeing at every opportunity. Finally, facing his trauma allowed Kurt to realize that he needs to distance himself from Frank and live healthily. No coincidence that he was always been the most, mentally healthy of the bunch. Billy Rousseau is a bit special. Through him, we get to see the subconscious effects of trauma. While he doesn't remember it, his trauma is thoroughly ingrained in him, and he does constant crimes and outbursts of violence to escape from it. John Pilgrim is a shining gem of a character. Every scene he was in had me fully captivated because of the aura surrounding him. Pretty much the only complaint I have is that we didn't get to see more of him. He was such a foil to Castle and key to his realization that the murdering of his family didn't turn him into the Punisher. He'd always been this way. Because here is a man doing the exact same stuff to protect his family. I desperately want to see more of him. The acting in the season was stellar, 10 out of 10, no notes. While the storylines were disjointed, they were both exemplary, so S tier for this season and S tier as a whole.